All right, welcome back to Tautua Talk. I am your host, Ki'a Tuala, and today we have a special guest. I'll start off with a short introduction and we'll just jump right into it. Leadership, it isn't just about being loud, it's about being there. It's about showing up when there's no spotlight, no script, and no prep. That's the kind of leader I'm sitting with today. His name's Tule. He's a man who moves with mana, but he builds culture with his hands, raises legacy with his kids, and leads not from ego, but from example. He's a fire knife warrior, a trainer, a father, a cultural architect, if you will. But titles don't tell the whole story. Let me tell you about a moment that does. A few weeks ago, I performed a fire knife solo, and Tule and his daughters jumped right in the drum for me. On rehearse, they just did it because I needed it. Just love for the culture and the willingness to serve. Later that night, they invited me to a second show, and I thought it was another celebration, but it wasn't a birthday party. It was a celebration of life. It's for a woman named Pat. She was given less than a month to live. One of her wishes was to attend an authentic Hawaiian luau. And Tule made it happen, not just with the movement, but with his presence. I witnessed as he kissed her on the cheek at the end of the show, and he spoke from the heart, surrounded her with aloha, and ended the show with a collective aloha. That wasn't just a performance, it was a spiritual act. This episode is more than fire. It's about legacy and raising kids in the culture, not just around it, about building something that we still are here going after, and it's going to be here long after we're gone. And that's what Tule is doing. This is the kind of conversation that reminds you why we really dance, why we drum, why we show up in the first place. It's for each other. With that said, I'd like to welcome in Tule. How's it going, my Uso? Thank you for hopping in on the show.
Thanks for having me. I feel all gassed up and stuff. I'm all like, oh man, really you? Me, man?
That's true. And give everybody a little bit of context. Like Tule and I have known each other for years. We were exercise partners. We were in like a powerlifting group for a while. We did that for a minute. We were just talking about before we hopped on the show, going 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
But that's where Tule and I really got acquainted. He would push me inside the gyms long before Coach Ki'a, long before I started getting into that space where I'm trying to coach other people in fitness and Instagram before like TikTok was the thing, right? Way back when.
Right.
It's led us full circle, these full circle moments. I've known of Tule, what he's been doing. Recently, I've noticed he's been more active in the community. He's got a dance group that we don't have a whole lot of that here in the Kansas City area. It was one of those things where I want to get my kids back into the culture, and he's running this group. They're doing a ton of events. I had to reach out and ask him, I said, Tule, what are you doing? I'd love to be a part of it, at least get my kids exposed to it. Something that I was around as a kid, always had cultural events, there's always birthday parties, always something, but there wasn't a lot of organization to it. Here, Tule he's doing that today. He's still coaching. He's still dadding. He's still mathing the math when it works, trying to find ways to fit things in. He's so busy. I was able to nail him down on a schedule and get him to talk to us today. Love having you on, brother. Like, we got to talk about some of the things you're doing.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you first and foremost for having me out here. When you said all that, I was like, dang, man, he's really talking about me. I think so. In our culture, it's so easy, and we get to the point where when someone's complimenting you, where you're just like, oh no, 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 it's fine, it's fine. You try to downplay the praise that you're getting. And it sometimes can be a sense of humility, but a lot of times it's, you're not receiving the accolades and the respect that you deserve because of what you've done. That's a common thing in our culture. I hope that's something that we as Polynesians can press past. But man, I appreciate that. That was really, that event that you talked about with Pat, that was really meaningful. That meant a lot. When they first came to me about that, I was like, sure. Like I've never done one of those before. So at our luau's back home, my family used to run a couple luau's back home on Maui. And we've done like Make-A-Wish stuff, right? Like people would come down and they'd do their Make-A-Wish Foundation attempt to want to go to a luau, go to Hawaii. And, we'd have them up on stage. I mean, being in their backyard, like surrounded by 50 of their closest family members that flew in from all over the country. You said the presence, everything was really touching. It was really probably one of the more meaningful, the top 5 meaningful like performances I've ever had, and I've been performing for a very long time. Yeah, man.
It was so cool to see, finding out more and more, even now, about the backstory makes it so much more impactful. I'm one of those people that likes finding out the backstory. It makes it more interesting. It may not be a whole lot on the surface, but you find out some of these things that aren't talked about or you don't know. Some of the details you covered about Pat's event, it makes it so much more meaningful and the connection is so much more real. I love the fact that you did it, and being able to be there firsthand and witness it. I'm telling you, for those of you listening or watching, it was so powerful. I've been to 1,000,001 luau's. Tule grew up in Maui, and his family did a business where they did it every day. Something was different about this one. And I was just fortunate enough to have my camera out, was snapping some pictures and got some great video. It really didn't come full circle till I was just going through the picture. I sent you a couple. And I was like, wow, that's such a powerful thing. And this is literally why we do it. And especially for those who don't participate in a dance group or looking to get into it, that's one of the things that should really draw you to it. If you're learning more about your culture, or you want to spread aloha, or you want to be part of experiences that really change people, have a big impact on them. Groups like what Tule's doing out there in Blue Springs, Missouri is one of those things where you can get access to that and you can learn from somebody who's done it for a long time at a high level.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I really appreciate you being there in that moment and capturing all of that, because at that point I was just all over the place. You see me, I'm drumming, I'm singing, I'm dancing, I'm trying to MC. And so, yeah, 2 days before, they were almost going to call it quits because they didn't think that she was going to make it. The story, but just to give your viewers a backstory, she wasn't eating for 2 days and she looked very malnutritioned. Even there at the venue, I feel like she wasn't at her best. Then her son sent me a picture, and I think I sent it to you too,
Yeah.
the day after. And I was like, bro, that don't even look like the same lady. I was like, she looks happy and refreshed and revived. Like you said, like doing everything with a purpose, even for the people that are in my group that are in Island Style. It really lit a fire under them, especially the youth. And I could just see they're good, great kids, especially my little ones, but it's like herding cats sometimes, they're just short attention span. And you know what? They're like, whatever, we're going to do this and that. And I love them. But on this particular performance, man, they were on it. Everybody knew it. I feel like they even understood the magnitude of the ceremony, of the moment. I was super proud of them and everybody that was involved. Yeah.
That's what surprised me the most. To give you a little bit of context, is me and Tule and his group had performed like earlier in the day. It was like 12 hours prior. This was at night. So it was, I don't know, it was 10:30ish, maybe somewhere around there. Like you said, the kids are spot on. They were hitting all their moves. They're moving around. You were coordinating the whole thing. And went out there, danced Siva Afi, and did this final performance. I think that's something that the guests there and even Pat herself couldn't tell by the energy and the vibes you guys were giving off. You guys were on point. Just, it was all about the moment. To think that, hey, this is the third time them performing today. They've been out in the sun all day, all the preparation, all the costumes, everything that goes on behind the scenes. You don't see that, but that final product was like, spot on. It was so amazing to see.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Ad-libbing a bit off of that, I want to ask you a question that ties into this a bit. For you, I want to ask, like, when was the first real moment that this became more of an ownership thing? You knew it wasn't just performing, but it had some purpose behind it. Could you dive in a little bit more into that?
Oh, you're talking about as far as like ISP, as far as Island Style?
Yeah, for you too, when you grew up, you said you grew up doing these luau's. It was something that you did commonly, but was there a moment for you where you realized, hey, this is more than just performing? Like, there's some purpose behind this, and this has some real impact.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a great question. Well, I'll answer it twofold. One, growing up when I was a kid, I was like most of you. If you're a Polynesian kid, you know that you are called on the spot to do something, right? To do some sort of dancing, some sort of anything at any
Yep.
given moment in a restaurant or on the street, or it don't matter.
You get
So
voluntold.
yeah, voluntold for sure. I was voluntold a lot, and when I was growing up, I didn't actually want to. I wanted to play football, play rugby, play
Uh-huh.
basketball. I wanted so to be as further away from all of that as possible, because I just grew up around it. It was like common sense to me. I started working at the shows, and then I really found my love for dancing when I really found how much other people who weren't a part of our culture loved it. And
Nice.
then I was like, wow, a lot of times you take things for granted because you're just so used to it. Like growing up in Hawaii on Maui, I'm so used to the rainbows and the whales jumping out of the ocean and the blue sky. People would come and they'd be, oh man, it's so beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, same old. Now living in Missouri for 10 years, I'm like, yeah, I do miss the rainbows, the whales, and all that kind of stuff. I took for granted that for a while. And as I started to get more deeply into dancing and spending more time on stage and being more part of my culture, I'd say that was probably about my mid-teens. I really grew a passion and a love for it because I never saw myself on stage. I was always self-conscious about the way I looked and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until I was a little older into my teenage years that I really that I really took pride in who I was and the culture that I come from and the customs that we have. As far as being an owner with Island Style, man, it happened quick. It happened when I saw my children. So I got into this. I started all this because of my children. Just like how you had said, you started Fine Art Dancing because of your son. During COVID, they wanted to learn Polynesian arts, and I was like, sure, let's go, let's do this. But we started learning during COVID, right? We're shut down. My gym's not open, so I'm like, I can't really work anyways. So I'm teaching them on the fly at home. Years gone by, and we keep working, and finally they were like, we think we should do our own thing. Okay, let's try and do this. When we opened it up, I was so surprised at how willing my children were to really take the next step up and level up in helping, not just learning, but helping and teaching. And that's a lot of times we learn almost the most as we're teaching other people, we tend to learn a lot more. So I felt my greatest moment so far in ISP was watching my children flip the switch and just take upon that upgrade and the level up that they needed to do in order to become not just dancers, not just performers, but to actually become leadership in their roles. Yep.
I love that because then you've had that moment where it kind of switched for you, and being able to see it live with your kids, you can see they're putting a little bit more effort into it in their maybe teaching on the side, showing somebody. I think that's one of the standards for leadership where you're learning something new. But if you can teach it to somebody else, that's where you know you've really acquired that skill set. You've got enough passion to teach it right. It plays into some of the ways that you learned it. I think you touched on that. You also went from this transition being voluntold and being this performer every day to now being more of a cultural architect where you're building these events and platforms for other people to get into it. We call that cultural capital with our culture. It's that thing that we have with our culture that's of value. That could be of spiritual value. It could be of monetary value, entertainment in the context that you grew up in. What is it like going from a stage performer to a cultural architect where you're doing these events?
I felt like for me, now looking back, I'm older now. I'll say that. Just being older, I look back now and I'm like, dang, man, I was always being bred. God was walking me on a path of leadership all this time, whether it was on the court, on the field, in church, with family and stuff like that. So I feel like He's always put me in a role of leadership or in a place of leadership. But before that, He's always put me in a place of service where you learn first and then you serve. And that's how you become the leader that you are. I think back of all the people that have helped me. And I've been blessed to be around super talented people in my life and just an eclectic group. A lot of people have been in spaces where they've been around, even the Polynesian community. And there's many people like me, but that have been around a specific group like hula or Tahitian or fire knife dancing. I feel like I've been one of the people that's been blessed to be around wide variety of those people and
Mhm.
just gleaning off of all of them. Now looking back, I'm like, man, now I know why I sat there and learned and got yelled at. That's why I stood there for hours and practiced, did all these things, is because it's putting me into this spot right now where God has me as far as, like you said, in Blue Springs, Missouri, which is the last place I would have thought I'd be in. If you asked the 19-year-old me where I want to be, the last place,
Same.
Missouri. But man, I'm so fortunate to be here and the place of leadership that they have me in. And it's so interesting here because, like, back home, there's a lot of people like me back home, and they're doing great, wonderful things. I love them all. Being out here, like you said, there's not very many of us in this space. And I'm glad that I get to utilize the experiences and accolades, I guess you could say, that I've achieved to be able to share not only with the Polynesian culture here, but with all cultures here, with all people. And that's probably been the most shocking thing for me with Island Style is just the variety of people. I think we have just as much non-Polynesians in our group as we do
Mm.
Polynesians, which I love. I absolutely love that. It's one thing to love your culture and love the arts of your culture because that's a part of who you are. It's in your DNA. But then for somebody else who is outside of that sphere to be like, I love that. I connect with that. I feel that. I vibe with that. I want that. And it's like, oh man, that just makes me head over heels for that kind of stuff. So I think I answered your question.
I think you touched on a lot of important points, and I find it coming up quite a bit. the fact that there's this disparity of Polynesians and non-Polynesians, especially in your group, something that's very inspiring for us as Polynesians, especially perpetuating the culture in the way that you do, that you've got this group of people that are non-Polynesian, but you're able to share this gift and the framework of speech that often comes up when I'm talking to non-Polynesians is that they feel like outsiders coming in. And there's this other word, gatekeeping, that gets tossed around a bit with certain things in the culture, with business or any culture at that, that you almost feel like there is some gatekeeping somewhere. I get asked often, you got one on your arm too. I get asked by people, hey, do you think it'd be offensive if I got a Samoan tattoo or if I started dancing a fire knife as a non-Polynesian? And depending where you are on the spectrum, you're going to answer it one way or another. Just real hard line camp that, hey, let's keep it Samoan or let's keep it to us. And there's other side of that same spectrum that's no, we should share it. We should be more open about it. I think at principle, there's common understanding that, hey, you should at least understand the meaning behind some of these things. I think that would help out a lot if you're looking to take that step to learn Siva Afi, or if you're taking that step to permanently tattoo your body with some motifs that have meaning to a culture, into a group of people, would do you some good that way. Because eventually somebody somewhere is going to check you. Hey,
Yeah.
what do you got? Or what are you doing? I think that helps. That's really the camp that I'm with. I feel like our culture, I feel like Tatao, I feel like Siva Afi, and a lot of things in Polynesian culture in general are a gift. And gifts are meant to be shared. By keeping them to yourself or gatekeeping it, you're not really sharing this gift that was a gift to you in the first place. Somewhat self-serving. I think selfish to an extent. But how do you feel about it? Do you feel the same way? Or what are your thoughts on not gatekeeping and just growth as kind of
Mhm.
your perspective?
I'm right along the lines with you, 100%. I can't say I've always been like that. In my ignorance and my youth, I used to be like, "Nah, y'all can't have that. Like that's ours." You know what I mean? You got all this other stuff, and why can't you? Why you got? And as you grow and you travel and you meet people that don't sound like you and look like you and don't have the same customs, you hopefully grow in your understanding that we're all more alike than we are different. I think I'm more along the lines of where you're at, like, yes, like learn why you have what those patterns mean, where they come from. Because we are like Polynesia, many, right? Many people, many islands. Like there are so many different motifs and artwork that's involved that might come from different islands that might mean different things. I had a guy, Caucasian guy, when I was young, and he had come to the islands, and some guy had tatted him on his leg, and they put something that was like it meant like an evil spirit kind of thing, but he had
Uh,
no idea that's what it meant, and I felt bad for him because I was like, bro, like you can't let anybody put stuff that's like you said permanently on your body, right? Unless you're gonna go through the electric shock or whatever, the removal of it.
yeah.
So yeah, my older cousin put it pretty well. He said a lot of it is art, and you have a respect for art, whether that's tattooing or painting or dancing, or whatever. Then your heart's in the right place, and then that's okay. That's the main thing.
I think there's a two-part qualifier to that. And having you bring up that example made me think of it. So this guy that you met had this tattoo. He wanted to be a piece of the culture. He wanted to wear it, but didn't do his little bit of research on the understanding and the meaning of it. So that would have helped out a lot. I think the second half of that is if you are planning to go that route and you understand the culture or the artwork behind it, to maybe go to an authority or someone that's bona fide in that particular culture, because I could guarantee if you went to a Tafunga or something like that, they would first probably see if they understood the culture, but then give them something that would have more of the meaning, be more aligned to what he wanted. You know what I'm saying? It made me think of when people go to get like Chinese letters on them, right?
Right,
Then a
right.
Chinese, maybe like a Chinese
There you
person or something
go.
like, can read it. Do you know that says chicken fried rice? Really? I thought this meant like unity. Like,
Yeah,
oh
love and
man.
faith. Yeah, right.
No, not this time. And I've seen that in real life. People often get like the heart rhythm
Yeah,
on them and we're like, live forever, born to, I don't know, they'll have some kind of saying with it. I was at Worlds of Fun a couple years back, sitting in line. I'd noticed somebody had a heart rhythm tattooed on their leg, and it was like, live forever or something like that. And I looked at the rhythm because, we read EKG strips and cardiac rhythms, and it was a lethal arrhythmia. Live forever. I'm like, well, not with that
yeah,
rhythm.
yeah, right.
That pulseless V tack, man. That's actually the opposite of what you said.
Right.
I think that plays into it. I'm glad you brought up that example. To tie that in a bit, let me ask you about the identity. Those people trying to find their connection with Polynesian identity, either through art or dance. What do you feel something about Polynesian identity you feel is constantly or consistently misunderstood in American culture?
Dug through some questions. As far as like within the Western culture, I think a lot of it is just misrepresentation. I think on big screen, how we're portrayed, the big thing. Most Polynesians are always portrayed as the overweight, silly guy that can't really figure things out and whatnot. That kind of perpetuates itself, like it goes throughout the culture. That has some relevance to that, but that's an over exaggeration of who we are as a people. Also, there's a thought that we're not intelligent. It was funny. I was training someone. I was
Was it
training
me?
someone at the gym, and I was explaining. We were going through what the exercise was. I think it was an RDL or a squat movement. I was trying to explain how your body moves in certain directions, how you need to set your form up so that you're properly doing the exercise correctly. A person looked at me and she was like, "Wow, you're pretty smart for a," and stopped right there. And I said, "A guy."
Go ahead and finish what you were saying. Keep that same energy. What were you saying?
I love that person, and I get it. It's just some ignorance that we all have here and there, misrepresentation that we are lazy, that we are overweight, that we are not passionate about things. There's some of that in every single ethnicity. That's one thing. Then the fact that people don't really know, like, somebody will ask me, okay, so what are you? And I'm like, I'm Tahitian, I'm Samoan, and I'm Tongan, and I'm born and raised in Hawaii. And they'll go, so you're Hawaiian? And I'm like, nope, I'm not. I ethnically I am. I was born in Hawaii, but that does not make me Hawaiian. That does not make me Kanaka a Maoli. And I used to get offended by a lot of the questions like that. I just come to know that a lot of it is just ignorance, like innocent ignorance. They don't know that they don't know what they're
Mm.
saying, and they need to be educated. That's why there needs to be people like you and me and other people in this space to be able to share what it really looks like, what we really and how we really are. Like that, our people are. We circumnavigated the largest area on the globe in the Pacific, like without the use of GPS or electronics or anything like that. Like we lived sustainable lives for thousands of years before any type of modern medicine or European influence. And we're not lazy. And if you look at it's funny because you look at pictures of like our parents at their age, people from those areas in Polynesia, they're fit, bro.
Yeah,
You can't be really be fat like living
not
a
allowed
body.
to.
No, you can't be lazy. They won't allow you to be lazy. There is no when you get up, you climb the tree, you kill the pig, you cook the food, you serve your family. I wish that there was more representation of us out there to show that we're not lazy and overweight. And yeah, that's
What
just
I
kind of pet peeve
what
for
I
me.
think is amazing is that the way you answered it speaks a lot to who you are as a person. If anybody listening or watching needs further context, Tule brought up the fact that one of the common misconceptions, especially Polynesians as people, is that we're all fat and lazy. And the opposite side of that is that there's not a whole lot of education that we're all Hawaiian. The same way that someone may think, oh, you're all Mexican. And we know that there's this great variance and there's huge cultural differences. There's hundreds of dialects and different styles of cultures. Even when we're talking about Latin America, you have Mexico, but you have very different dialects when it comes to being Venezuelan and other Central Americans, and they're South Americans. You could easily miscategorize somebody just based on this broad context of language that you throw out there. But not only that, Tule pointed that out, but he's actively doing something on the forefront of both of those fronts. You have this negative stigma that Polynesians are just fat and lazy. I mean, there may be some on every spectrum that maybe fit that mold, but for the most part, it's not. It's a healthy, vibrant people who are intelligent. You can't cubbyhole them into just one portion, but Toll's actively working against that stigma. He's a master fitness trainer, runs the gym, does kid classes, does one-on-one training, is actively working against that narrative, whether consciously or subconsciously, not just for people in general, but he coaches a lot of Polynesian people, me being one of those former people that he's spotted and coached myself. And on the opposite side of that, with what he's doing with Island Style Productions and him being in a teacher and a leadership role, he's entertaining. Yeah, he's teaching the next generation. But what he's doing, he's creating these events and these moments where people can ask questions and then he can extrapolate the information from the feedback from the crowd or from people or clients and actually have these educational talking points where he will present maybe the Hawaiian Islands, but then give a culturally accurate draw out and paint a picture of what that actually is and the meaning behind that. So I think you brought up both and you highlight it, but you're actually doing that in some of the things that you do. I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Going into that further, you said earlier, I did not see myself at 19 years old in Missouri, of all places. You've been here a long time. Your roots are established here. You have a beautiful young family, a loving and supportive wife. You got this great community around you. What makes you think that the Midwest is the next cultural hub when it comes to Polynesian experiences? You're obviously on the forefront of that.
Yeah, families like yours that have been here a while, and some of the other Polynesian families that have set roots in here for decades, I think they have set roots up, strong roots for people like me and their offspring, like you, obviously, some other people that are here in our community to take it the next step, to take it further and really highlight it. My family here has been in Blue Springs for not my I mean my family, my extended family. They've been here for decades, hearing all the things that they've gone through and they've achieved, and yet not looking back, looking now for us in our space and in our time, they took it here. Now
Mhm.
it's our job to just ante up and just take it a step further. And I think with the technology and the understanding and knowledge that we have and the passion and drive that we have, I think we can do that. I think there's so much opportunity out here with that because we are a vibrant but small community. I think we shine a lot. We were just at the Thai Celebration Festival,
Oh,
which
that's so awesome.
yeah, and the Water Celebration Festival, which was, we're not Thai, we're not even Asian, but they were
Mm.
like, no, we love who you are, what you guys do. We want you to be a part of our celebration. I was
That's
floored. I mean, that's what it's all about. I think the Midwest has a really good opportunity to do that because I feel like on the West Coast and in the islands, we are well represented and we are to an extent here, but I think there's an opportunity for us to embellish a little bit more on it and take it a step further. Yeah.
I
Especially
love
in dancing culture, fire knife, which is what you've been forefronting as well.
that was pretty impactful to me to see when you were posting about the water event with the Thai cultural group that you were with. I don't know if or not, my wife was born in Thailand.
Oh,
And so
wow.
my kids are of Lao descent. So just like you, here's this Tahitian Samoan Tongan guy, but he grew up in Hawaii. But you home and the sacredness of the culture and you understand it well. People often misrepresent it. My wife being the same. On the opposite side, I could definitely feel that point for my kids. They're off of Sanya and they're very tied in with the Thai culture, but they're of Lao descent. They're two distinct cultures, very
Mhm.
similar, just like Samoan and Tongan. And seeing you take part in that event, I remember sharing it and thinking, wow, it's such an amazing thing that a Polynesian group is doing. It's this beautiful marriage and collaboration between two cultures that I'm very close with. And they're both groups, they're both at this singular event that's again perpetuating the culture, doing it in a way that's respectful and opening up that conversation for people to ask questions. What's a Polynesian group doing here with Tahitians? There's having being married into that, there's so many similarities between the cultures. They have this respect system. We call it the chiefly system or Tautua of service. They have the same thing. I have to brush up on my Thai on what they call. There's this honor system there that's very, very similar to Samoan culture of respect and to honor your parents and give back to the village. It was so cool to see that event, you guys being a part of it. I was like, that's perfect. That's who needs to be out there doing it. There's so much more of that here in the Midwest. I think it's phenomenal to see. I was just excited about seeing it unfold in front of me, but also being able to take part in some of the things you're doing. Which leads me to the next day, talking about what you're doing currently. We talk about what some of the things you've done in the past, where you're at right now. What are some of your plans for the future? What are some of the things unfolding? And if you can, if that doesn't get you in trouble, what are some of the things you're working on? Some of the big things you have coming up?
Yeah. We've been super blessed. I think we are at currently 20 shows in the last 3 months. We
Or
just
somewhere
started.
every day. Like, where are they today?
Yeah. This week we have Third Thursdays in Blue Springs. That's going to happen on Main Street. You're going to grace us with your presence there. We're going to have a lit show out there, and
Cool.
Friday we'll be doing some other stuff too. We do a lot of private shows for families that are looking for venues and birthdays and celebrations, obviously like Pat's. But we're going to adult care facility on Friday, do some stuff like that, and I really enjoy those. It warms my heart to see their hearts. They're seniors, and yeah, they're used to playing bingo on Tuesdays and maybe dominoes on Thursdays. But then to have a group like us come in and just liven things up a little bit, you see that twinkle in their eye, and they get all happy and giddy. So those are some meaningful shows for us. We've got a bunch of shows that are coming up. The Ethnic Festival that's happening on August 16th, 17th, and 18th. We'll be representing Tahiti as the Tahitian Commission. And
Maybe I should have asked, what don't you have coming up? Because
that's even better. Yeah. We're going to be performing at Starlight on August 6th, Starlight Theater. That's one of the big theaters out here in Kansas City. And we'll be performing at their entrance stage there on August 6th. That's a Wednesday. The Ethnic Festival's on August 17th. We have some recitals coming up as well. Big stuff. We've spoken to this at length before, but looking to take it a step further with a lot of stuff as far as like cultural immersion. And so
Mhm.
one of my biggest goals is to take our group and really immerse them in the culture, whether that's in Samoa, Hawaii, Tahiti, but to take them back to the islands, to the root of where it all started, and really have them have an understanding of the why behind what they do. Yeah. You're
Mm.
not just doing this movement because it means the ocean. This is why you're doing it. This is what the ocean really feels like. This is the ceremony that you would do before you would get into the ocean or before you would perform this specific dance. One of my big goals is to do that. I know we had talked about it extensively, and I'm looking so forward to that. We do have some really big projects that are coming up in the winter. We're going to be working, hopefully, with the Kaufman Theater to put on a performance. And I can't really say that much, but just be on the lookout for that with Island Style Productions. So, yeah, that's just some of the stuff that we've been working on.
I'm excited. You can tell if somebody's busy that they're doing good work and having the free time like you hopping on today, I think shows how valuable your time is. There's not a whole lot of it, but it's pretty exciting to see some of the things you're getting into in the future. And I can't wait to collaborate on some of these immersion experiences. That's something we're doing with the Tautua Foundation that I'm going to be excited to roll out some of those features too, because I think your purpose is very meaningful and something that's lacking if you're standing in the actual place where some of these rituals or some of these dances or some of the meaning of the artwork that you wear every day, if you're, it's different when you're standing in it and you experience it and you've had this immersive experience, you're going to carry it and you're going to go about teaching and learning it in a whole new framework of thought. Okay, I stood there on the beach. I've got to see some of these ancestral sites. I got to see the people. And there's something different about being there. You could look at it through HD screen on your phone all day, but to be there and actually feel the mana, so to speak, if you're in Hawaii, or to feel the love of the people in a Samoan village, or to be in Tahiti watching a Tahitian sunset, I think is something powerful that we can't translate into words or that pixels on a screen could not do justice. We just have to be there to actually feel it and be a part of it. I think it's amazing that some of these immersive experiences that you're planning that I'm looking forward to collaborate with is coming closer and closer to fruition the more and more that you do a show and you link up with some of these big entities that you're performing for. I think it's phenomenal. I'm so excited. I'm gonna put for people to reach out, but do a quick shameless plug here, real quick, for someone who may be on the fence about wanting to learn. I know we talked about Polynesians and non-Polynesians. It's open to everybody. It's a gift. But what are some of the ways people could reach out to you, find out something straight away, maybe get some feedback, find out where your next event is going to be? I'm finding out live right here that you got some events coming up and I'm taking notes. But if someone were listening or catching one of these clips, one of the best way that they can stay up live and to date with what some of the things you're working on.
Yeah, you can go on to islandstyleproductions.com, click on the newsletter. Once you get on there, We will keep you up to date via email on all that stuff. Also, our Instagram or any of our social media, it's Island Style Pro, or Instagram is at Island Style Pro, and everything else is Island Style Productions. We got tons of stuff going on. I can even give you my phone number if you want. You can call me. I'm that personable. I don't mind you calling or texting me. And Ki'a said, it's not about me. It's about you. It's about you learning and growing in the person that you are and learning more about our culture. We welcome everybody, anybody. Just come. If you have a heart, if you got 2 feet and 2 hands and you want to stand up and do a little dance and learn a little something, come on down. We're more than happy to have you. 610 7 Highway, Blue Springs, Missouri,
Hey,
64014. Come on down.
I've taken my son there to go to some of their practice groups. I could tell you what, they're going to need a bigger facility because it was packed with people. It was the vibe was going on. Tule was teaching the class. They had a separate class going on here. You have to come out and experience this, even if you're just a looky loo, to see aloha, see mana in action. You could see it. You could see the passion behind Tule when he's up front teaching, and all these kids are locked in. I can tell you someone does pub ed and teaches second graders and fifth graders that I got them for about 10 seconds. And I need to pick Tule's brain further, maybe after the show, on how he's able to keep these kids captivated for an hour and a half at practice. He's got them doing shows, 20 plus coming up here real soon, but it keeps them locked in. I think teachers and parents, you may want to tune in and just show up to the class and try to get some of the sauce that Tule's got, because he's got these kids dialed in. Not just the kids, you got the adults dialed in too. I think you can really tell when someone is teaching with a purpose, someone has meaning and really feels the things that they're putting forth and educating the next generation with. It shows through in some of your work. Like Tule said, if you want to find out what they're doing next, how you can support, how you can join up, hear that, how you could join up, sign up, support his group or some of the events you're going to, be sure to follow him. His IG is at Push the Fire. It's PUSH_THE_fire. That's his personal one. I'm not going to give his cell phone number out here because who knows who's going to be texting him. Reach out to him directly. You can also support them at Island Style Productions. They've got an Instagram there too that's thriving really well. Book them, sponsor them, invite them to your schools, your city events. What they're doing is it's not just entertainment, it's education, like we talked about earlier, and able to have these great, phenomenal experiences. Having witnessed one of those myself, I'll say my heart was moved. Still thinking back to this day, it's so powerful, the work that they're doing. Before I cut you loose, I know I kept you maybe a little bit longer than you were expecting. I like kind of like finishing up with like a rapid fire question thing, get some quick information out of you, but also something that's just a little fun. You down for a rapid fire question session?
Let's go.
Hey, let's go. Just short, punchy answers. You can extrapolate as long as you want, or just give it one more answer. But I'll ask you a group of about 6 or 7 questions and just see what your answer is. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Question number one. One Polynesian value that you think young men need to reclaim.
Respect/self-respect.
I love that. You know, a lot of things in this culture are rooted in respect. Men in general, we want respect from everybody. There's one way to do that is to work on yourself and self-improve, make yourself something that you're able to be respectable, also give back, earn respect. That's a perfect answer when it comes to that. Question number 2 is fire knife or fatherhood? Which one is more humbling?
Fatherhood. Question right there.
Hands down.
You want to know what it's like to be humbled and be put in your place? Become a father. Become a true father, not just popping out babies. Raise your kids, and you're going to know first minute what it means to be humbled, for sure.
Humble pie real fast. You got teenage daughters. I have all boys. I'm humbled every day, but I can only imagine the amount of humble pie that's being served up in the house when mom and the girls team up against you.
The amount of white hair that grows on my head every day is amazing. That's amazing.
That's why he's got
one.
I knew it. I love that answer. I'll ask you the next one. Question number 3. What's the worst thing people can assume about island culture?
Yeah, I think we touched on it before. Laziness. Yeah. That we're lazy and overweight people that don't care about our health, don't care about our people, don't care about our belongings. That's a big misconception that I hate.
Obviously, because all somebody's got to do is just look at what you're doing, follow on any of these social media platforms, or come to any of your events. They can see that you're very engaged, doing a million things at once. I would say that's the opposite of lazy. Look at Tule. This man is out there Fire knife dancing, he's leading this group, he's fathering. That's a 24/7 and humbling job. Keeping a strong, beautiful relationship with his marriage. I think that's a great example for any married men out there. Something that, believe it or not, is not as common as it used to be. But here's this great example. Also, it's a complete opposite of lazy. Just look at it. I think there's plenty of people out there setting a great example like Tule. Question number 4: drum, dance, or discipline? Which one's number one for you?
Which one is more important?
What would you say is number one for you out of those three?
Discipline. If you don't have the discipline, you're not going to grow much in your dancing or your drumming at all. That drumming and consistency paramount when it comes to wanting to do anything, right? Fitness or whatever it is, especially if you're trying to drum and dance. If you don't have the discipline to work and get at it every single day, you're not going to be very good at anything that you do.
You're gonna put the dumb in drum, but you want to be a
Yeah,
disciplined drummer.
right.
You want to be a disciplined drummer if you're going to do
Yeah.
it. I love how when you get up there and drum, you're just getting after it. But also, that's a skill set that's not very common around here. I've never drummed before. Having watched you perform and play even the Tahitian drums, I guess something that shows a lot of discipline to learn at that skill set level, but also that you have this avenue where people can maybe come and take a drumming lesson. Before doing so, make sure that you drum up on your discipline skills because it's going to take a whole lot of it. Tule's been doing it a long time at a high level. To get there, it takes discipline. Listen up. All right, next question. What's the best thing a student has ever said to you?
Oh man. I mean, outside of my children, because my children tell me they love me all the time, and I think they just gas me up for food. But
Smart. They're very smart.
yeah, yeah, no, they're good. They're good. Especially my girls, man. They know what to
Yeah.
say. After practice, after every practice, we pray with a group. We all hold hands in a circle and we all pray. I talk a little bit about what happened, what's going to happen, and all that kind of stuff. And they don't really say it, but they do it. I have like my little ones, and they range from 5 to 9, around there, 4 to 9. When we call for circle time, we call it circle time. When we call
Mhm.
for circle time, there's two individual girls that run up to my side to grab my hand. And that just, oh, it just makes my whole night. I'm just like, to know that they love me and they trust me enough to want to, kids, they don't want nothing to do with us, especially like big, scary guys that have just been yelling at you for 2 hours to dance better. They come up and they run up to me and they grab my hand and they sit there and they pray. And that, man, that just melts my heart. It's not something they say, but it's something they do. Yeah.
I think that speaks a lot because most of your communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
The things that speak louder are most often the things you do, not the things you say.
Yeah.
The fact that these young people feel comfortable enough and inspired by you enough to run up to you when it comes time to pray, I think that speaks volumes to your character and some of the things that you're highlighting for them. I think that's why they gravitate towards you. I think that's a phenomenal answer. But I'll cap it off with this rapid fire questioning with the final question. Let me ask you, what does legacy look like to Tuleiileafi in one word, if you had to put it in one word?
Um, hmm. Never ending. That's two words that are combined, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, never, never ending. I think it's hard to describe legacy without using the word legacy, but obviously you're an example to be around forever. I think is something that you perpetuate with your actions and some of the emotions that you're into. Phenomenal answer. Whether it's a two word answer or a single one, it doesn't matter. I think the meaning's deeper on where his heart is and where Tule's coming from. So I appreciate you, Uso. And again, if anybody's looking to reach out and find out more information, shameless plug earlier in this segment, I'm gonna have all those links and everything in the video below or the clip below to reach out and find Tule. In the meantime, I probably got to go and get my discipline a little bit better and start working on this routine. We have a performance tomorrow, first Thursdays,
Third Thursdays.
third Thursdays. See, I'm starting to play into that framework that we're not all very smart. Maybe I just
No.
didn't work. Maybe I just didn't work on my listening skills. But we have a great event tomorrow, and like we talked to earlier in the segment, is we got a ton more coming. More of these immersive experiences. You catch them at any of these major events here in the Kansas City area, but you may be able to catch them somewhere nearby countrywide as far as how big this thing is getting from here. I want to thank you again, Tule, for hopping in. I know time's the most valuable resource you have, and I'm just honored, grateful, and blessed that you got to spend a little bit of a time with me and any listeners or any of the social media platforms that are tuning in to these clips later out. As we check out, I want to go ahead and in closing here and talk a little bit more about Tule. You just heard from a man who's actually doing something a lot of folks just talk about, but very, very few live it. Tule's a living example while he's also raising the next generation. Tule isn't leading with a megaphone, he's leading with his presence. He's not just keeping the culture alive, he's making it better. Whether he's performing on stage, he's training in a gym, or honoring an elder in her final days, Tule brings energy, integrity, intention, aloha. And what hits the most, it's not the flames, it's the faithfulness. In this conversation, we had some great discussion, but if it moved you, don't let it stop here. Follow him on his Instagram, reach out to him on Facebook, text his personal number if he ends up putting it on this show. I just want to thank you for coming in and spending the time. It's more like elevation, but more importantly, it's a gift to the next generation. Tule is a great example for what leadership looks like and what it should look like. Be sure to tune in for more. Again, Tule, thank you so much for hopping in. This has been another episode of Tautua Talk. I'm your host, Ki'a Tuala. Until next time, stay blessed and keep that fire alive. Aloha.
Aloha, guys.